Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Sunday night in Azeroth, and we have a great show lined up for you. It's Super Bowl Sunday here in the United States. Well, I guess it's Super Bowl Sunday everywhere, but I used to care a lot about the Super Bowl, and I debated. I was like, well, this is my opportunity to record. This is the day I'm scheduled to record, but the Super Bowl, should I be watching the Super Bowl? And then I realized I don't really care about the Super Bowl anymore. I used to really care when I was younger. I really cared about the Super Bowl. It was really important to me who was in it and which team and who was going to. And I don't think it's just that I don't like the Seahawks or the Patriots. I kind of have animosity for both of those teams. Sorry, Graybeard. But I just don't care. So I will be playing Burning Crusade Classic instead of watching the Super Bowl tonight. So there you go. Anyway, so pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy, I guess. So let's talk about what I got up to last week in WoW. So Burning Crusade is now live, launched on Thursday, February 5th, and it has been a lot of fun so far. I'm level 62 and a half. A lot of people are doing the dungeon grind and they're taking it very seriously. You go in and you grind as many dungeons as you can. That way you have all your quests available for you at level 70 that you can do for gold, which is cool. That way you get a lot of gold towards your flying mount. And, I think it's a better way to earn the gold for a flying mount is expensive. It's 5,200 gold for the training and the mount. Plus you have to do the, your slow flying mount, which is like 800 gold for both, something like that. So you need about 6,000 gold just to be able to fast fly. And that's not easy to get. So I think I have, 1,100 gold at level 62 and a half. So, I'm getting there, but it's going to take me some time to really earn what I need to get that. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. 62 and a half. I'm about halfway through Hellfire Peninsula. I've done a few of the dungeon runs, and honestly, I was worried that people were going to be really weird about, oh, you don't have Nax gear, you can't do my regular Hellfire Ramparts at level 60. But people were pretty cool. The groups that I ran with non-guild groups, and I ran with a couple of guild groups, and everybody was really chill. People are really nice about grouping up for the rares, or not the rares, the elite quests or the group quests in Hellfire, which is nice. You show up and somebody else shows up at the same time, and it's like almost an immediate invite. Or if you invite them, it's an immediate accept. Because people want to do this content. They don't want to try and kill snipe. The only difficult part is when you're getting ready to pull and a horde group of 5 comes running in behind us and takes the boss. So I was like, well, that's fair. And I'm not on a PvP server, so I can't do anything about it. So it's whatever. I'm not stressed about it. I did, there's the whole idea of, you've got to grind your dungeons to honored first and then go do the quest. I didn't do that. I should have, but I didn't. And, when I go to do the heroics for Hellfire Citadel, it's going to be a pain because I'm going to have to grind a bunch of normal dungeons in order to be able to get the key, because I think the heroic key is revered. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where I am on that. I have had one upgrade so far at level 62 and a half, which is my cape. So there's a quest that you get in, it's for the Blood Furnace. And one of the rewards is a cape, which got agility, stamina, and attack power. So I had Might of the Tribe, which is from ZG. It's the best cape I was able to get. So that was a clear upgrade there. But it's like I got stuff that is kind of a side grade. Maybe it's a smidge better than what I have currently. But then I'd have to break up my set. I'd have to get it enchanted, which I really don't want to do. I've already got the best enchants on all my gear. So, it's when I bring my warrior through, he's sitting in the inn in honor hold right now. So he's chilling. So my hunter is tearing through. And as soon as my warrior starts doing quests, everything's going to be an upgrade because all his gear was leveling gear. I didn't get anything from dungeons at level 60. Maybe one or two things, but there was really no opportunity to get gear because nobody was running dungeons at that point. People were like, we're just going to grind honor. We're going to, it wasn't like, ooh, let's go run BRD for, Savage Gladiator chain. Nobody cared at that point. So when I, when I go to on the warrior, it's going to be a lot of gear, and that's going to be nice because it'll be like, okay, I feel like I'm earning something, I'm getting something from this. Same thing with the paladin, who's like 47. When I get him going through there, that's going to be nice. I'll tell you right now. I did some dungeons with a paladin tank, and I did some with a druid tank. I have not run with a warrior tank yet. Apparently, warrior tanks are getting rejected as tanks in leveling dungeons, which, okay. Anyway, there's a big difference between running with a druid tank and running with a paladin tank. Paladin tank, it's like if you just target whoever the paladin is targeting and then start cleaving, they'll hold aggro all day. If it's the druid and it's 4 mobs, you've got to be very careful. You're pulling aggro, which I did a lot. So sorry to the druid tank. I was pulling aggro off of all over the place, but that's just not being careful. But overall, it's been a great launch. I think Dream Scythe is probably a really fun server to play on compared to Night Slayer, which is the PvP server. That one sounds like it's not as much fun. And I think part of that is people are just so used to doing things on a PvP server. They're used to it being frustrating. Whereas on the PvE server, everyone wants to have kind of a chill time. And I think that's what, for the most part, what I've been seeing. Overall, it's been good. And I'm really happy with it. I also did play a little bit of Midnight, mostly just doing the pre-patch event, trying to get my alts already. So it's so funny that the difference between starting a new expansion on Classic and starting a new expansion on Retail. Retail, it's like, well, I've got to have 8 alts ready to go because I'm going to burn through so fast. And on Classic, it's like, no, here's my character, and I'm going to slowly work my way up to level 70, and I'll start, getting some gear. And it's a completely different mindset. And some people are doing Classic with the go mentality, and that's fine. I'm not doing that. I want to enjoy and take my time. When I logged on, so I logged on Thursday night, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this. And then it's like, I had to do a bunch of stuff around the house, and my wife got home from work, so I was chatting with her. So I didn't log on until about 9 p.m., which is 3 hours after launch. And so I get there, nobody's at the dark portal. It's completely cleared out because, the NPCs are there, obviously, but no players. And so I got there, picked up the quest to go to Hellfire Citadel, went up to the top of the ramp, and I literally just took a breath because I wasn't there in 2021 for the Burning Crusade Classic launch. So to me, this was the first time I've gone through this experience since 2007. And I wasn't expecting to be not emotional, but it affected me kind of on an emotional level. I was like, oh, wow, this is so exciting. And it felt really special, even though I wasn't there with 100 or 200 other people. And it was, I'd missed the big launch by 3 hours. Didn't matter. It still felt important and special and exciting. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it and having a good time. So, and reconnecting with the guild that I really haven't done a whole lot with since, I don't know, August or so, August, September, that area. So anyway, that's pretty much what I got up to last week. It's been a very enjoyable experience. And I'm really happy that Blizzard gave us the anniversary servers so that we can kind of go through this one last time, and whatever ends up coming out of the anniversary servers, whether we go to Wrath or if it's just TBC and then we stop at Era, I'm just happy for the experience. Okay. I just want to enjoy playing this game in a way that I want to play it. So for me, I'm having a good time, and that's what's important. All right. Speaking of which, I wanted to make a comment here. So I did get a few negative feedbacks from my last episode where I talked about the state of Azeroth and kind of the lack of representation for Classic WoW. And I understand that people were kind of annoyed that I was whining a little bit, and I get it. That's fine. But the reality is there is a lot of frustration for not knowing the future And I could be frustrated that Blizzard hasn't communicated that with us, but I am still enjoying where I am. I don't feel like playing Mists of Pandaria Classic, and so I'm not. But I do want to play Burning Crusade Anniversary, and so that's what I'm doing, and I'm having fun. And so I don't want anyone to listen to this show and think, oh God, Denethar is such a whiner. No, I do want to point out criticism, or I want to be able to criticize Blizzard and point things out where I see them, but I also want to be able to say, hey, I'm having fun and I'm enjoying this game. And this podcast is about enjoying World of Warcraft. I don't want it to become hey, this is the, complaint channel. There's so many YouTubers out there and podcasters in some cases who just want to complain about Blizzard. Blizzard's just greedy. The game stinks. Whatever the criticisms are, and some of them are valid, and that's fine. But I don't want this podcast to become that type of show. I want to be able to discuss these things and have serious, frank conversations about what Blizzard is doing, but I don't necessarily want it to be a negativity content show. So I'm going to try very hard to avoid doing a prolonged negative experience, but I also do want to be able to point out something that I see that is a negative issue, or at least I see it as a negative about what Blizzard is doing, how the game is, the community, whatever it is. So, and we are going to do a little bit of that today, but I do want to have a more positive spin on things. And generally speaking, I do have a very positive outlook on Blizzard and World of Warcraft. There's just certain things that I'm frustrated by. So I apologize if I get too overly negative in some episodes, but I do want to be able to speak freely and speak my mind. So there you go. All right. That being said, let's move on to the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so there's two things on the store right now. And one of them is like, okay. And one of them is like, interesting. The first one is the Sweet Home Sweet. I was going to say Sweet Home Alabama. Home Sweet Home. Oh, that would be a great shirt. Sweet Home Azeroth. I need to get that. Anyway, Home Sweet Home t-shirt and hoodie are available on the Blizzard store. So this is it's just got the Home Sweet Home kind of stylized writing logo on it. If that's something that you're interested in, $32 for the t-shirt, $65 for the hoodie. It is not a zip hoodie, which I was kind of disappointed. I don't like pullover hoodies personally, but maybe it's because I'm a big guy. I don't know. But pullover hoodie, $65, t-shirt, $32. They are print to order, so they print them when you order them. So it's like 7 days ordering period. But anyway, yeah, check those out if you want a kind of cool t-shirt. That's a great t-shirt to like wear to a BlizzCon or whatever it is, or you just want to walk around and people will be like, oh, what a sweet t-shirt. And you're like, oh, it's about World of Warcraft. Oh my God. Anyway, yeah, so those are available now on the Blizzard store, and I will put the link to those in the show notes. The other thing that's available on the store right now is the Anubisath Guardian pack. So this is, you're going to get the ensemble of the South Guard's Copper Raiment Transbox set, which I believe there's a different color variation of it on the trading post right now. The Anubisath Sun-Scorched Great Blade and the Anubisath Sun-Scorched Blade, which is the two-handed, the one-handed version of this sword. And then you also get 700 Trader's Tenders, which I know that was something that they said that they didn't want to do anymore, but now they're doing it. So I'm not sure if this is like, I don't know, maybe they're testing the waters again, seeing if people are kind of cool with this now, or if people are like, no, screw you, we still don't want to buy 10 days off the store. People aren't going to see this as, hey, cool, I get to buy some new transmog. They're going to see this as, I'm going to buy 700 Trader's Tenders. And like I've always said, Blizzard is here to make money, people. That's their goal. Their goal is not to just provide you with a cool game, and that's the end of it. They're first and foremost, they are here to make money. And whether we like that or not, whether we think that that's the way they should be or not, that is what it is. So, yeah, this is a thing, and we have to be able to accept it because that's how corporate America works, and whether we like it or not. So anyway, yeah, 700 Trader's Tenders available with the Anubisath Guardian pack available right now in the store until March 2nd, and it's $25 US. I should have mentioned that previously. $25 US, March 2nd, and you get a transmog set, 2 weapon variations, and the 700 Trader's Tenders. Honestly, it's not a bad deal. If you're okay with buying tendies off the store, that's a pretty good deal, but I still won't buy it because, I mean, I have like 6,000 Trader's Tenders on each of my 2 accounts. I have more tenders than I know what to do with. So I think by and large, the trading post has turned into all right, there's going to be one thing that I like. And for the most part, I don't know that anybody's going in there buying everything off of the trading post. So every now and then I'll buy one of the mounts. I'm like, oh, that's a cool mount. But for the most part, I don't really engage too much with the trading post. I like to buy foundational pieces for transmog, different color variations of things. Because sometimes when I have an outfit and I'm like, this doesn't quite look right, and then I put a different piece on from the trading post, and I was like, there you go, that ties it all together. Because I'm a fashionista. So, right. Anyway, that's available now on the Blizzard store. Okay, let's talk about this mage boosting in Classic. So I did report on this a couple weeks ago that Blizzard had nerfed not just mage boosting, but boosting in general. So reduce the amount of XP that you get if there's a large spread between characters in a dungeon. I think it's essentially if the mobs are gray for one of the people in the dungeon, then everyone else gets like 10% of the XP they normally would. There's some crowd control changes and slowing changes and different things like that. So they have reduced the amount of immunity that. No, let me rephrase this. If you're a mage and you're trying to slow mobs as they're coming at you, after I think it's 30 seconds after a minute, they're no longer going to be able to be slowed. And so this is really important for things like Maraudon, because in Maraudon, one of the things that you would do is mage would just go back and forth between 2 different locations, slowing the mobs the whole way, and just go and go and go. And after a minute, those mobs can no longer be slowed, and so then they would just come and kill the mage. So now this has been up to 2 minutes, and so that's going to open up a lot more things that mages can do. You still have the spread difficulty between a low-level character and a high-level character, but if a mage is just farming a dungeon for, say, gold or whatever, it's going to be a lot more viable now. So it's the crowd control immunity and the speed, movement speed adjustments. And it also will help with groups. When groups are just struggling to kill mobs, and maybe they pulled off too many packs. Maybe somebody backed into a pack and now they're scrambling. Well, that minute is ticking right away. So if you don't get those mobs killed in a minute, you're going to die because you can no longer slow them down. You can't kite. You can't do any of these things. So now you've got an extra minute, 2 minutes. So it's a lot better, but still Blizzard doesn't want you to boost in game like this. They would rather that you just level naturally or that you buy the $60 boost. I'm sure they'd prefer that you buy the $60 boost, but I'll tell you right now, I looked at it and I was like, do I want to boost my shaman? And I thought about it and I was like, no. If it's that important to me and I get to that spot, I'll do it. But I'm not going to preemptively boost a character to level 58 just because I might want to play them at level 70. That's not worth it to me. If I'm in that position where somebody's like, you need to have a shaman tonight or you're kicked out of the guild, I don't want to be there. That's not the group, and my guild would never do that. But that's not the kind of group I want to be in. So for me, it's I'm okay with not boosting, but a lot of people wanted to boost and they did. And so, here we are. Anyway. So that's what's going on there. So, I'm sure this will get adjusted again as things go, but as it stands right now, this is where we are. And it's a little weird. There was a video that I saw of a hardcore group that was in Zul'Farrak. And one of the things with the anti-boosting is that mobs will snap to you if you go somewhere that is unreachable by mobs normally. So like, you stand on top of a pillar or something like that, and the mobs will just snap to you. And so in this video that I saw, and I forget who it was, I'm sorry, they were running out of Zul'Farrak and the mobs were trailing behind them, chasing them. And one of the mages stepped onto one of the little pillars that's fallen over in Zul'Farrak that you just normally just jump over. Well, they touched the edge of it, and that was considered out of bounds by the mobs. And so they all immediately snapped to the mage and killed him. And I thought, that sucks, because what? That's not, I think, what they were intending to do. So I think there's still some room for change, and Blizzard will clean this up over time. But, overall, I think it's a good idea to reduce boosting. I still don't like it because I like to boost myself. As I said before, I do like to do that, but I can't do that anymore, and so that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's just forced me to run more dungeons, which, oh no, be social. So anyway, that's what's going on there. All right. Finally, let's move on to Modern WoW. So there's two things here. First is the pre-patch currency was buffed again last week, which, if you didn't see it, and this happened, so we recorded last Sunday, and so on Monday they put this out that with the weekly reset, the quests that you do for the pre-patch event, which give you 80, if you do both of them, it's one is to kill 3 rares, one is to kill 8 rares, which I don't know why they did that, but that's what they did. If you do both of those, you'll get 80 currency, and you can only do it once per account. So now you can do it on every single alt. So it's a really quick way to farm this. I mean, quick, it still takes you 40 minutes, but it's quicker to farm the currency now than it was when the event first launched. So I feel comfortable now going and buying some stuff, because I feel like, all right, I can go and get this currency pretty quickly if I need to, if I want to. So I'm gearing up my characters now, which is great. But again, it's really tough because Blizzard just hits these currencies and these events, and it's just slightly off. And I can't tell if they just don't understand how this works, or if they're intentionally being off the mark so that they can then come in and buff it and go, okay, now everyone's happy. Because if they put it at those levels to begin with, people would have still complained, and they'd have to buff it even more. And so if you say, here's where we want it in this range, so we're going to start it just below that, so that when people complain, we can bring it up to where we actually want it, and then nobody will complain anymore. Versus if you start there, now you have to go even higher. So I don't know. I can't tell. And I wish that, and obviously they're not going to tell us that, but I wish that was something that we could know, because I'm genuinely curious, like what is the mindset behind some of these things? So anyway, so you'll be able to get your currencies now. So congrats on that. And then finally, the second Midnight pre-expansion update will go live on February 10th. So this is the 12.0.1 patch. And it's mostly class changes, some UI changes. They're fixing some of the transmog UI, the damage meter, the boss alerts, things like that. So it's just like a cleanup of, it's basically taking what's on the beta and moving it over to live. And then this is the final change before Midnight goes live on March 2nd, or actually, I think Midnight actually goes live on February 27th. Is it? February 27th. Yeah. So, there you go. This is it. We're locked in. So no more changes to the UI, no more changes to what used to be add-ons. Those things are all locked in. This is now what we have unless there's a major issue that they have to hotfix. This is what we have until launch. And then I would assume that after the Midnight launches, then we won't get any new updates until patch 12.0.5. So anyway, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, this patch isn't going to do anything for you. You're not going to, check your class, check the patch notes to see if your class got any buffs or nerfs. But people are still frustrated with the state of a lot of classes, and I get that. It'll work out over time. This is still really difficult to nail down every single class, because there's a lot that goes into it, and people are frustrated with the way their class feels now at level 80. And that's not how it's going to be when we get to level 90. And if you're on the beta and you're like, well, my class doesn't feel good at level 90, that's also not how things are going to be, because you're not gearing in the same way that you would on live servers. You're not doing the same encounters that you would on live servers. Your character is going to be in a different place. So yes, it is frustrating right now. You go, hey, my class doesn't feel good. That's a terrible thing to have. If you say my class feels bad to play, I'm lucky because almost all of my classes feel really good to play. Even a class like Prop Paladin, which is kind of in a weird spot. I'm having fun with it. So I'm like, well, I'm not opposed to this. So I think for the most part, Blizzard has done a pretty good job, but there's going to be differences. And as has been pointed out many times, somebody has to be on the bottom. You have to have some class be on the bottom. And sometimes it's frustrating when it seems like it's always the same class, but it's not always the same class. And some classes are not always at the top or never get to the top. And so I don't know. And it's, I feel like some of these classes could just use a full rework. Not even like, oh, change up a bunch of stuff, but like, no, strip them down and rebuild the class from the ground up. I think that could be used by several classes. I'm thinking classes like Unholy DK, which has gotten so many changes on the beta and into the pre-patch. Survival Hunter, Mistweaver Monk, Resto Shaman. I mean, some of these classes, they need help. And I think that Blizzard could use to just go back to the core fundamentals for those classes, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. So anyway, I'm not going to get into all that because we're still, it's not midnight yet. So I will do a full review of all the classes as we get closer to midnight. I'm still working on it. I haven't gone through all the different classes, but my goal is to at least look at every class and understand what their strengths and weaknesses are going into the midnight expansion. So we'll see how that goes. It might be a little ambitious, but yeah, well, we'll see. All right. I think that's it for the news. Let's move on to what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. The bonus event for this week is the Delves bonus event. You're going to get the Sign of the Explorer buff, Delver's Journey progress, companion experience, and undercoins increased by 25%. And you can pick up the quest A Call to Delves from Archivist for Thrune Dornagal to complete 5 delves in Kazalgar, and you will be rewarded with a champion track delve item. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really interesting because one of my accounts, my Delver's Journey is done, and on the other one, I'm about halfway. And so I look at this and I go, could I just pound delves next week and finish my Delver's Journey? And technically the answer is yes, but why? Why would I want to do that? At the end of the day, I don't really feel like it matters. I have a lot of things that I've earned in this game on one account, but not the other. And so it's like, hey, cool, my character has this, but this character doesn't. And it is a little frustrating sometimes, but for the most part, it's whatever. There are certain advantages to having 2 different BattleNet accounts. Like, for example, I have 4 houses. Nobody else has 4. I mean, not nobody, but most people don't have 4 houses. But I do, because I have 2 BattleNet accounts and 2 houses per account. So there you go. That's an advantage. Disadvantages, I have to buy everything twice. All my decor I have to earn again on each account, which stinks. But, whatever. There you go. I mean, it's fine. It's just, it is frustrating sometimes when I look at those and I go, I did this to myself. Anyway, so complete the quest, A Call to Delves, and you will get your champion track delve item, which is kind of useless at this point. Although if you get a trinket, that's cool. I wish there was a way to go and say, I want this delve trinket with currency, because the pre-patch event doesn't have trinkets. So I've got characters who have full champion gear now after the pre-patch event, but to like whatever Dragonflight era trinkets. So that kind of sucks. Anyway, we have also this week the pet battle bonus event. So you'll get the Sign of the Critter buff. Pet battle experience gains increased by 100%. And you can pick up the quest The Very Best from Archivist for Thrune and Dornagal to defeat 5 players through the Find Battle system with level 25 pets. And you will be rewarded with an ultimate battle training stone. And as I always point out, this is kind of a weak reward because leveling pets isn't even hard, but there you go. So you could level up 1 pet to level 25 instantly, which is cool. But I don't want to have to do pet battle PvP. That does not sound like fun. So anyway, there you go. That's the bonus events for the week. The PvP brawl for the week is Deep 6. Deep 6 pits teams of 6 players against each other in 3 iconic battlegrounds: Warsong Gulch, Silver Shard Mines, and Temple of Katmagu. Each battleground offers a little variation on the traditional format, such as flags that are a bit closer in Warsong Gulch, less carts to keep track of in Silver Shard Mines, and only 2 orbs within the Temple of Katmagu. When you zone in, you'll get the quest Something Different to win a PvP brawl, and you'll be rewarded with Conquest Honor and Marks of Honor. Also, let's not forget we have the Winds of Mysterious Fortune still going. That is going to give us 20% XP boost, 50% reputation boost, and then you can also get your different buffs as you're leveling that you can use for getting different things, including more XP. So that's going to run until February 24th, and then we'll just kind of be ready to go for midnight later that week. So the Winds of Mysterious Fortune will see us out of the War Within. And then finally, let's talk about Love is in the Air. Something is in the air in the major cities of Azeroth. Some call it love, and some just call it friendship and admiration. Whichever it is, many guards and townsfolk now spend their days giving and receiving tokens and gifts to other amorous citizens. The more skeptical, however, are suspicious of the strange love sickness clouding the hearts of so many. Will this widespread occurrence be simply taken as a recent outbreak of amore? Or will it brave adventurers find a sinister plot behind the source of this plague of passion? Only time will tell. I love their descriptions on some of these. Okay, so Love in the Air it's pretty simple. Basically, there's two main things you can do. You can go do the Crown Chemical Company encounter in Shadowfang Keep, where you have a chance to, or where you're going to get a heart-shaped box the first time you do it per account per day. That's another advantage of I have two chances to get the get the mount. So you get the heart-shaped box, and then within there you have a chance to get several different items, including the infamous X45 Heartbreaker, which most people still don't have. And I gave up on trying to get that a long time ago. You could also get the Love Witch's Sweeper mount, the Toxic Wasteling Pets, Forever Lovely Rose, and Vile Fumigator's Mask cosmetic headpieces, Heartbreaker toy, and the renewed Proto-Drake Love armor for your renewed Proto-Drake. The Heart-shaped box also has a chance to drop between 5 and 11 of the Love tokens. Now, the Love tokens are the ones you can get, like Wowhead says it's like 35 to 41 per day. I don't know if that's accurate, but you do the daily quests, and then there's a donation that you can do. It's 10,000 gold for 10 Love tokens. So you can use those to purchase various transmogs, pets, toys, mounts, not the X45 Heartbreaker, but you can do it for a lot of other things. So yeah, there you go. That's the Love is in the Air event. It's kind of a cool little holiday. It doesn't require a large time investment, which I like. Some of them are exhausting with the amount of effort you have to put in, like Noble Garden, for example, sitting there clicking on those stupid eggs. Oh, I hated that. But this one's fun. It's fine. It's going to run from February 9th to February 23rd. So enjoy that. And get your special somebody in Azeroth something that shows how much you care. All right. That's it for that. Let's move on to our main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
All right. So I'm going to tread on some dangerous ground here and say that I'm going to disagree with a good majority of the YouTubers and Twitter posters that I've seen regarding this particular interview. So I'm not gonna drag you guys through this. We're gonna start off with the infamous quote, and then we'll go through the rest of the content from there. So this was an interview with the Game Business Show with Holly Longsdale and Ian Hazakostas. Longdale? Holly Longdale. Is it Longdale or Longsdale? Anyway, sorry, Holly. I didn't mean to mess up your last name. So they were discussing various different components about World of Warcraft, where it's going, what's changed, and things like that. And one of the things that Holly mentioned in that interview was that Chris Metzen has sometimes thought that they shouldn't have called it Warcraft because that name sounds too intimidating. Now, Holly quickly followed up with, she doesn't think that anyone feels that way about Warhammer. So I think that inference there was that she doesn't feel like it's a problem. People have, first of all, attributed this quote to Holly, which is not true. It was Chris Metzen. And secondly, he didn't say this on the record. She's saying that it was something that he said. So this is like a game of telephone, right? And there was no context for kind of what he had said. Anyway, people are taking this as the death of Warcraft, the death of Chris Metzen was our savior. Now he's the villain. Different things that people are running with this in different directions. Now, there's a lot more to this interview, and there's a couple of other interviews I want to talk about that have kind of gone on recently leading up to midnight. But in this particular interview, I actually really liked what Holly said, and I really liked the direction that they are trying to go with World of Warcraft. And there's a lot of frustration for people who feel like, and I've heard this term used a lot, which is the Disneyfication of World of Warcraft. And there were people who were pulling up the pictures of the orcs that Chris Metzen had drawn back in the 90s or whatever for the original Warcraft game. Orc holding a severed human head or whatever, and bloodthirsty orcs. And I get that. You have to understand that in a context like this, Blizzard cannot continue to have the orcs be this violent, bloodthirsty group of people. They had to make them accessible. They had to make them not villainous, right? The bloodthirsty, murderous, rampaging orcs, that doesn't seem too heroic, right? The orcs are much more heroic now, and the Horde itself is much more heroic now. And there's been some ups and downs from both sides. But I really like where things are. There are some criticisms that I feel like are valid. Like, for example, some people have pointed out that the faction unification doesn't need to mean that there's not distinct experiences for each. As I'm running through Burning Crusade Classic, I'm reminded of this when I go, well, the Honor Hold over here, and then Thrallmar is over there. I've played one character through Burning Crusade on the Horde 1. And I was like, all right, it's fine. It's basically the same thing. It's just over here. But it does feel different because, hey, this is our town. And so we're all together in Shatrath, but this is my spot over here. Don't mess with my base. That's your base over there. We're not going to mess with your base. And that doesn't need to go away. And I feel like that's one of the things that's been lost since Shadowlands, where there's no longer these distinct Alliance and Horde places. It's now, we're in the Shadowlands, we're in the Dragon Isles, we're in Dornogal. Nothing feels like, hey, this is an Alliance place. Hey, this is a Horde place. That I agree with. That sentiment has come up a lot. But anyway, let's get into this interview. I just wanted to get that right off the bat. It is frustrating that people are so upset by this, and I get it. But also, you have to understand where it's coming from, because the sentiment behind that is not, I don't want this game to be violent. I don't want this game to be edgy or raw. We need to be able to sell this to people as something other than a massively multiplayer online game or a real-time strategy game. It needs to be bigger than that, because this is the cash cow for Blizzard. And if they're going to bring in the money that Microsoft is expecting them to, let's not forget, Microsoft paid $69 billion for Activision Blizzard. And so a big part of that is Blizzard needs to prove their worth. And we're not talking about killing skeletons in Duskwood. This is like earning money. So, we'll get into all this. So, first off, the interview itself kind of went through things in a certain order. Wowhead was very kind to put together this really nice summary that I'm going to be using to go through this, because while I enjoyed the interview, this isn't like a react video, so I don't want to go through piece by piece. So we're just going to summarize and discuss things. And I really appreciate the good folks at Wowhead for putting the work into this. Sometimes you guys make great content, and I'll give you that. So the first thing is how WoW has changed and where it's going. So in talking about the Warcraft IP, it says Holly believes that Warcraft is a fantastic IP that has been underutilized, but is poised for growth and wants to bring it to as many people as possible, a bigger vision than simply an MMO. And that's the point right there. That's if you take one thing away from this, understand that Blizzard wants to turn Warcraft into something that is once again part of the pop culture zeitgeist. Back in the 2000s, when World of Warcraft was really going big, say around the Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King time, it was really popular. There was commercials featuring celebrities talking about World of Warcraft, William Shatner, Mr. T, Ozzy Osbourne. There were some really great ones out there. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, what's this game? This is interesting. That has gone. And the only people who play World of Warcraft anymore are World of Warcraft fans. And Blizzard understands that you have to generate new players. You can't continue to just subsist off of the existing group of people. Like, that might work for something like Classic, but for the mainline World of Warcraft game, you have to continue to generate new interest. And so part of that is by expanding your IP, making it into something more than just a massively multiplayer online game. Now, they did a little bit of that with Hearthstone, but Hearthstone is kind of its own thing now. So if you play Hearthstone and then you're like, oh, let me go over and play World of Warcraft, it's very different. My good friend Dave Gagne from the Solo Queue started with Hearthstone. And it is a big difference going between those two games, but he did manage to make the leap. So he's one of us now. It's really interesting that they're approaching it this way. And they're not talking about, we want to have different types of games. Okay. It's very clear from this. They're talking about things like movies and a TV show. And I have contended for a long time that what Blizzard should do, and you guys can give me credit for this if you want. Holly, if you're listening, have a TV show and you have two groups of 5 characters each, one alliance, one horde. Make it whatever races you want. I don't care. You can make it classic. You can make it modern. Doesn't matter. Pick whatever you want to pick, whatever's going to be easiest to do. And every episode features those two groups doing 2 different dungeons. Maybe one week, the Alliance group is doing the Dead Mines and the Horde group is doing Wailing Caverns. The Alliance group is doing Nomergon and the Horde group is doing Scarlet Monastery, or whatever. The idea is you get attached to these characters, and yes, they might sometimes run into the different lore characters. Oh, we got to go see the king for this, we've been summoned. Or, Thrall is here and he wants to know how we're doing. And that's fine. But I don't think that you should have a show like this about the main characters. Or about the lore characters. That's not the way to build a show. You need to give the audience something that they can feel and latch onto, and you have to give the writers the ability to just kind of go wild with people's backstories and with their behaviors and their temperaments and romance and whatever you want to put into a show like that. And so you have to create adventurers, and that also gives people an idea of, oh, this is what the game is like. Cool. I like this. Looks like fun. That was something that they did really well with D&D, the D&D movie with Chris Pratt, Honor Among Thieves. They gave us a party, and they had the party go through the adventure. You had an NPC who came in, the paladin, and then who left. And, he was not actually part of the party, but he joined up with them for a little while. And so it was very clear how the movie felt like a D&D campaign. And I really thought that was a good use of that IP. And Blizzard could do something very similar. You could get a big star in there. You could have nobodies. It doesn't matter, because if you're writing good stories, that's the important thing. And if you go through these stories in a fun and interesting way, some of the things that are in game, you could even do, and just make it more like a TV show rather than like a video game. After maybe you're not cutting off Van Cleef's head. It might be a little rough. Maybe some people would like that. I don't know. It doesn't need to be Game of Thrones. But it could be. It could be. And so, yeah, I guess, I think that's what they should do. But anyway, let's get back to the interview. So, yeah, they want to do something bigger than just an MMO. Right. And then it says, Holly mentioned that Chris Menson has sometimes thought they shouldn't have called it Warcraft, believing the name might sound too intimidating. But Holly contends that nobody really thinks that about Warhammer. Now, and this is where people are latching onto this one section of the interview. And I get it, because it sounds like, oh my God, they don't want it to be war. They don't want it to be violent. They want it to be edgy. And I'm 49. I'm going to turn 50 this year. And for me, I don't look at things the same way that I used to. When I was in my 20s, I wanted to see those bloody, violent movies. And I'm not going to cringe away from any of that stuff now. Like, my wife might, oh, it's too much. When we were watching Game of Thrones, she didn't want to see some, like the Hound, or not the Hound, the Mountain versus Oberyn Martell. She didn't want to see that because she was like, no, I can't see that. It's too gross. It doesn't really bother me, but I don't crave it. I don't seek it out. I'm too old for that. And some people my age do like that, and that's fine. But for me, I just want something interesting. I want a good story. I want an engaging I want something engaging. So if you were to suddenly put out there Warcraft the TV show, people are going to be like, what the heck is this? It sounds dumb, right? Because if they don't know what it is, Chris Metzen's absolutely right. It does sound a little intimidating. Warcraft? What does that mean? Is this about like how you build an army? What is this for? And honestly, that's what it was. Warcraft was about building an army, and it's turned into going on adventures. And so, yeah, he's in some ways he's right. It does sound a little intimidating, but I feel like people who are threatened by this idea, they're valid, because there's already been a lot of frustration of WoW has gotten away from its edgier moments. It's not as hardcore as it used to be, and it does still have those elements, and you can't deny that World of Warcraft still has hardcore components to it. It's just not as common as it used to be. Think about the trailer for The War Within, for Dragonflight, even for Shadowlands. None of those felt particularly aggressive and warlike. The last one that we got that was a little more of that, ooh, that was badass, was the Battle for Azeroth trailer. Sylvanas wrecking the Alliance, and then Anduin rezzing everyone, and they look at each other kind of like, okay. That was cool. That was fun. People liked that. Or the Warlords of Draenor trailer, and what Gul'dan must we give in return? Cool. That was good. But we haven't gotten that very much recently. It's a lot more story driven, a lot more character driven, not so much blood and glory and honor. So I feel like I understand where people are coming from by being a little, not threatened necessarily, but disappointed by this, by this statement. But I don't think that, I think that we need to understand where Blizzard is coming from, and they are trying to figure out how to turn World of Warcraft, the video game that is slowly dying, into something that is prospering. And, Ian threw in there, he feels like Blizzard's best years are ahead of them. That's great. And I'm glad that they feel that way. If they don't do something different, it will die. Because if they just continue to run the same thing over and over again, oh, look, it's the new Horde War Chief it wants to go to war. People will lose interest. You'll end up with a game that's played by 750,000 players, which is great, but not the 7 million that we have currently. Because you have to give people the opportunity to do other things besides let me go fight and be mad at the opposite faction. Has to be more than that. But you can't get rid of those things. You have to include them and never forget where we came from. I hope 100% that when the last Titan is over and whatever comes next, if it's some sort of a reset, which I think that's what we're going to end up with, some sort of not like a level, we might get like a level squish or something, but a reset in tone. I do hope that comes with not a renewed faction conflict, but a faction animosity like we had in vanilla World of Warcraft, because that to me tonally felt just right. I don't need it to be we're all buddies right now, and we can work with the Horde, or the Horde can work with the Alliance on different things. That's fine. But there should be this underlying animosity. It's like the Federation and the Klingons. They're always that one step away from full-blown war. But it doesn't get there because the story needs them to be allies. I don't want a Federation versus Romulans type conflict. That doesn't feel good. That's not fun. I want the Federation and Klingons, where one day everything's cool. The next day, the Chancellor of the Klingon Empire dies, and there's a risk that the Federation might get drawn into a civil war. That's what I want. That's the type of story that Blizzard should be telling in World of Warcraft between the Horde and the Alliance. So, all right. Moving on, because, and like I said, I wanted to hit that right off the bat because I don't want to just drag through all this other stuff. And everyone's like, well, why don't you just tell us what you think about the Chris Metzen? So there we go. Time commitment. So, since gamers across the industry don't necessarily have a lot of time anymore, so Blizzard is trying to add more features like housing that don't require specific time commitments and can be engaged with a variety of players, whether they're working solo or looking to do something with their friends, partner, or children. And that's the key right there, children. you have to understand that video games were one time, back in the olden days, were designed for 10 to 30-year-old men. And that's the target audience for video games. And that's no longer the case. They want people to play video games in the retirement home. I'm planning on it. I've got 15 more years before I retire. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to have a gaming rig set up in the retirement home. I'm going to be all set. No, but seriously, Blizzard is, again, they're here to make money, right? And so now that video games are part of popular culture, you can no longer just target that one demographic. You have to look at the larger demographic and say, who's going to make us the most money? Oh, look, it's the people who are buying the Longboy mount from the store for $90. Oh, look, it's people who have 2 Battle.net accounts because he's an idiot. The people who are buying boosts, the people who are buying mounts and pets and transmog with 700 traders tenders in the store. Who does that? The people who have money. And there's 2 different groups of people who have money. There's the people who are young and they're spending the money that they have on it, and they don't have a whole bunch of other money, but they also don't have a whole lot of responsibility. Or it's the people who've got a really nice job and a car payment and a house, but they have a little bit of extra income that they can spend on their video game because they don't have as much time to play as they used to. And so they have to spend money to get some of these things like, oh, I didn't have enough time to grind 5 million gold for a Longboy, but I can buy one for $90. That's fine. I'll do that. And that's exactly what Blizzard is trying to do. They're trying to target people who are able to bridge that gap between I'm paying $15 a month and I'm never going to give you any cent more, or people who are like, yeah, I'll buy the occasional this or that or whatever. My daughter plays Marvel Rivals. She's really big into Marvel Rivals, and she's always talking about, oh, there's a new Sue Storm skin, or there's a new Gambit skin or whatever. And, she works, she has a job, so she buys those things. She lives with us, so she doesn't have to pay rent. So yeah, she can do that. As soon as she moves out, and her boyfriend are talking about moving out, and then I'm going to be an empty nester with my wife. But, when she moves out and she's paying for rent and power and water and all of these things, and you've got to set up garbage day, and your money doesn't go as far as it used to. And so those types of things will go away until she gets to the point in her life where she's got a little bit of extra money, some disposable income. And then that will start again, because now time is more valuable because you're working all the time, or maybe you have kids or whatever it is. And so now it's not a matter of, oh, I want this really cool skin. It's a matter of, oh, here's the thing that I couldn't get in game, but I could buy it now. I'm going to buy it. So the time commitment is really important, but it's why so much focus has been placed on retail WoW, modern WoW, because you can monetize so much of it. That's why Blizzard hasn't fully given up on Mists of Pandaria Classic, because it's more monetized than, say, the Burning Crusade Anniversary or Hardcore. Hardcore, you can't monetize at all because people aren't going to buy anything on Hardcore cosmetically, because you might lose that character in an instant. And then what? Oh, you wasted that money? So yeah, Hardcore is just for fun. Anniversary seemingly is just for fun, although Blizzard did monetize with the boost. I'm honestly surprised. I'm genuinely surprised that they did not include a WoW token with the Burning Crusade. I thought for sure they would. So whatever, it's fine. But I understand that the time commitment is a big thing. And I saw somebody talking about this on YouTube, and I think it might have been Solheim, I'm not sure. He was talking about how Blizzard needs to understand how to monetize Classic in the same way that retail is. And that's one of the problems, is that Classic players want Blizzard to give them all of these things, but then they don't want to give Blizzard any extra money to pay for those things. They don't even have a separate subscription for Classic. It's the same subscription as retail. And while, yes, okay, so that's fine that Blizzard is getting their $15 either way, there's no extra incentive for Blizzard to do anything for Classic, because there's just not. That's why we have things like the Dark Portal pack that you can get all the, here's some cool mounts and some different things. Yeah, but really it's about help us pay for this, because we did have developers work on this. We did have to put effort and time into this. And so if we as players want Blizzard to develop something, we have to be willing to write those checks. And honestly, I would not be surprised if Classic Plus was a game purchase, and not just a new game mode for Classic, but all right, so you can buy Classic, plus if you want to play it, it's $50. I feel like that's what we're going to end up with. So we'll see. But yeah, that's a big part of it. All right, let's move on because I'm getting wordy here. Content variety. So, this goes back to in the olden days, it was just raiding, and then they added in Mythic Plus, and now they've added in Delves, and now we've got housing, and Blizzard just keeps adding more and more things for people to do in game. And some people are kind of concerned, like, well, why is that? So this breadth of content is key to making WoW approachable for everyone, a kind of third space that offers content for all players. And that's one of the things that WoW has been lacking recently, is that third space feel. And I'm really hoping that they can nail it with housing. There are some things that they're going to do with housing to improve it. But that's not for everyone. That is not for everyone. And I see that. I recognize that. It isn't about changing what World of Warcraft has to offer so much as offering more content suitable for everyone, whether they're looking for 20 bite-sized content or can spend an entire weekend dedicated to accomplishing something within the game. These aren't all new motivations either. WoW has had a vibrant role-playing community since its inception, despite the game not offering many tools to enable it. There's now a whole community formed around how to build things in housing, which is the real beauty of MMOs. A number of players also engage with the new expansion campaigns before falling into a more casual space, which the live team is trying to keep them engaged with more frequent patch content. 20 years ago, WoW was thought of as a game only for players who could devote dozens of hours per week, but while it still contains that depth, it now offers much, much more. So let's go back to 2004 or 2007 or whenever it was that you started playing WoW, 2010, 2000, whatever. Leveling in WoW took effort, took time, and it wasn't hard in terms of, oh my gosh, this is so hard. No, it was easy, but you had to commit the time. And a lot of people who I know who were playing WoW back in the day had to quit because of time commitments. I can't play this game anymore. It takes too long. Well, guess what? Blizzard has gotten rid of most of that friction in World of Warcraft. You can play WoW. You could go do Mythic Plus, and you're playing on the weekend. You run 3 Mythic Plus, and you're done. You're done for the week. Maybe you do 2 days a week where you play Mythic Plus for 2 hours a night. That's it. That's all you have time for. And you could do that. You could raid 2 hours a week. You could do that. You can raid log in raid logging in modern WoW is so easy, especially if you're not doing mythic raiding. If you're doing heroic or normal raid, you don't even really need to farm mats for consumables. You need some consumables, but you don't need a ton. So, I mean, realistically, yeah, the game has gotten so much more accessible in terms of not just the time commitment, but the content that's available for you. So you say, well, I don't want to do Mythic Plus, and I don't have time to raid. What can I do in WoW? Well, you could do housing, you could do delves. Honestly, you could do world quests. There's a whole new way of doing world quests that was introduced in the Dragonflight that I think a lot of people have really kind of overlooked, which is that, it's not just about going and completing these objectives. You're actually going out and doing something that you're part of the world. Think about the cooking event in Azure Span. That was a really fun thing that you could go do. And yeah, okay, so it didn't give you really a whole lot of player power, but that's not always the point. WoW is a video game, and while the ultimate goal in WoW is to gear up and get better gear, secondarily, we need to be there to have fun. And that's part of it, is just having fun. So I'm really glad they added housing. I know some people feel like it's taking away development time from other things. It's not. Housing has its own development team that they hired independently. It's not like they took developers away from the other teams and now we're going to lose a raid tier. We're actually getting more raids than we would have before. And you have to understand that things like doing raids and this content, it's not just about having enough time. It's about how you manage your team. So I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So delivering more content faster. Organizationally, the development team has changed a lot, breaking up into more specialized teams that can work in tandem with one another. There are now teams dedicated to each expansion, a team dedicated to live content, and another on housing. Last Titan and its following expansion are both already well underway. That started with investing in leaders to reduce the bottlenecks between the creative and approval processes. allowing teams to work on multiple projects in parallel. So this is not video games. This is just personnel management and how you manage a team. And one of the things that I find really interesting with this is that in my job, we do have those bottlenecks. And so my boss can give me something that she wants me to do. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But then at some point, that's got to funnel up. And somewhere along the way, somebody else has to make a decision and go, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. So I do understand this because I can work independently as far as I want. But at some point, I have to answer to somebody else. And that goes up and up and up. And so the way that they've broken this up is from a design standpoint. They can make some of these design decisions independently, whereas before it had to be done at the top. Since 10 years ago, it was almost given that there would be a 6+ months of downtime between each expansion, which is something they've been working to fix for a long time. Releasing just 18 months ahead of after the launch of The War Within, Midnight will have some of the shortest downtime between expansions to date, while still releasing regular 8-week content updates throughout, boasting no cut corners, compromises, or sacrifices in quality, though some players may disagree. Absolutely, I disagree with that. But we're not here to do that. More importantly, they're not sacrificing the team's health either. Midnight is an expansion made without crunch, without telling anyone to work weekends or stay late. Blizzard wants to continue making this game for years and decades to come, and to do that, they need to treat it as a marathon rather than a sprint. An unexpected benefit of working with Microsoft has been the opportunity to speak and visit with development teams from other games such as Elder Scrolls and Minecraft. Otherwise, Microsoft has been trusting and supportive since their acquisition, with Holly saying that the team hasn't felt their presence. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I guess the absence of presence, the layoffs was a really big thing. But I want to hit this because, again, this is a little bit corporate-y stuff and office work. But when you're working in an office, whatever it is you're doing, I do configuration management in my job. I deploy software, I manage policies for computers. I do a lot of very, but there are certain decisions I have to make. Like there was some time ago, there was a big debate between, hey, we want the homepage for Edge browser to be this, and somebody else was like, well, I want it to be that. And there was like this big argument, and I'm like, guys, I don't care, just tell me. It takes me 2 seconds to make this change, and if we do it and it doesn't work, we can change it back. It's not a big deal. But people have their opinions, and they want to, this is how I feel about this. So I like the idea that they can reduce this down to these teams. Hey, the housing team is making a housing decision. They don't have to ask Ian Hazacostas, hey, Ian, what should we do for this housing thing? Dude's busy. He's doing other stuff. You guys make your own decisions. And that's what I like about this, because it gives the teams flexibility. Now, obviously, you have to have a structure or that won't work. Otherwise, it's Wild Wild West. But if you do have that structure built in, and you do have those breakpoints where somebody at management can come in and say, hey, you need to not do this because of this reason, right? If the questing team or the live team that's doing this quest, and they're like, oh, let's have this quest where, Thrall makes out with Jaina. And they go, actually, you can't do that because Thrall's married and he would never cheat on his wife with Jaina. Okay, cool. Good to know. So, you can't go wild with it. You have to have structure, but to give them the flexibility to make some of these design decisions without having to go up the chain is what is allowing the game to work this way. It also allows a lot more bugs to creep into the system. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of these problems, is that there are changes being made independently by multiple teams. And at the end of the day, you have to remember that Blizzard got rid of their entire QA team. And so it slowly brought it back, but it's difficult to manage and maintain a live service game without having adequate QA. And when I say adequate QA, I mean a massive number of people testing this game. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to me how many bugs are in the game. Even right now, still on retail, I can log in and there's going to be the same XML Lua bugs that are part of the Blizzard interface. I have no add-ons, and I'm going to get this error. That's frustrating. I also understand, because sometimes you don't know how to fix some of these bugs. Sometimes you've got to go through the code and determine what it is. I've had that so many times with my job. Somebody's like, hey, this thing is happening. And I'm like, well, it shouldn't happen because I tested it and it worked. Now you got to go through line by line, looking at the code and comparing and testing each thing one by one until you go, hey, wait a minute. I don't think that that's right. And then you got to backtrack and you've got to go through and you've got to do a different version of it. I mean, there's so much work that goes into this. And that's what we're paying for. We're paying for them to do it, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. Just because you're paying for something doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. How many times have you had somebody come in your house and do something, and at the end that they're like, okay, it's all done. You're like, that's not how it was when before you started. This thing didn't work right. You know, that sort of thing happens and it's real. But, you know, at the end of the day, Blizzard is trying their best, and I would rather have them doing it this way than be sitting here for another 6 months with nothing to do in game. Nothing new to do in game. There's plenty to do in game. Nothing new, nothing interesting. Just 6 more months from today. If we went into August before we got midnight, how frustrated would y'all be? Right? So yeah, there's bugs because they are moving more fast. They're moving more fast. Wow. My English be bad. They're moving much faster than they have in the past, and it shows. All right. And finally, let's wrap this off with catering to different audiences. Part of offering something to everyone has been realized in branching Classic off into several different versions. When they first launched, the mantra was no changes. And then the team took that to heart, even going out of their way to reproduce known bugs like spell batching. They quickly realized that maybe some changes would be good, which gave the team an opportunity to start experimenting from small targeted updates to creating standalone hardcore servers and even wholly new content. Many Classic players are completely different from Modern Retail 1, behaving differently and wanting different things, but it has caused a change in how the WoW team thinks about the content they create. So this to me was a really big moment in this interview, because this is the acknowledgement from Blizzard that, yeah, for the most part, the Classic and Modern WoW audiences are different. And there are people like me who play both, but I don't actively play both at the same time. I'll play Classic for a little while, and then I'll play Modern WoW for a little while, and I'll go back and forth. Like right now, I'm playing Classic, and I'm having a good time. But come March, I'm going to be playing Midnight. And so that's why I told my guild, I'm like, I'm not going to sign up for a raid spot. I might bench raid because, hey, I'm on, and I want to do Karazhan, but I'm going to focus most of my time on Midnight. I think if I had to give it a split, I would say I'm a 67% Modern WoW, 33% Classic WoW player. Now, that might change with the launch of Classic Plus. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, that's kind of where my split is. Now, I had a really interesting conversation with Mahler the other day in game. And he was talking about how the audiences are so different, and he doesn't play retail at all. But it is interesting to him to hear some of the things about retail in the podcast. And so I thought about that a lot, and I was like, well, wait a minute. So I would say I probably do for every 3 retail focused episodes, I'll have 1 Classic focused episode, maybe 1.5, 3 to 1.5, something in that range, 2 to 1. I don't know, however you want to break it down. I'm not good at math, but it's definitely, the podcast is definitely more retail focused. And so just like Blizzard, I've been trying to kind of focus on everything that I'm interested in. And sometimes I'll talk about things that I have no interest in, like the recent Throne of Thunder update for Mr. Pandaria Classic. I didn't care. I wasn't going to play that, but I talked about it because I was like, well, this is part of the content that I'm interested in. And so even if I'm not personally playing this game, and I don't know how the audience for the podcast breaks down, because I feel like most of the people who listen to this show probably listen for retail and probably get annoyed when I talk about Classic. And people who play Classic probably aren't listening to this a whole bunch. So I don't know, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here. But I do want to continue talking about the content that I'm interested in. I am interested in Classic. I do want to play this game. And this is something that's really important to me. So yeah, so Midnight and Burning Crusade are going to be my two babies right now. I'll talk about them both as needed. So I hope that doesn't bother anyone. If you feel like I should focus more on modern, or you wish there was more classic content in the podcast, please tell me. Send me a message on Twitter, or you can jump on the Discord server, AzerothUnitedPod.com, and get on our Discord server. Tell me, because I'm doing this because I find it interesting and fascinating to talk about World of Warcraft, but I also don't want to just talk into a vacuum. And if people are saying, hey, we really wish you would do more this type of content, well, then I would consider it. I did have people telling me I should do more PvP content, and I just couldn't do it. So, there you go. I used to talk a lot about raids. I don't talk as much about raids anymore because I'm not raiding in the War Within. So, that's the way it is. You talk about what you know, and you talk about what you're interested in. And that's how this type of content works. So, please tell me if there's things that you'd rather I didn't talk about, or you wanted me to talk about more. I want to hear from the people. You tell me what it is that you are interested in, or what annoys you when I delve into that long conversation about the holiday events, or, talking about delves for an hour. Talk to me and tell me, because I won't know if I'm alienating my listeners by talking about some of this stuff. I might not change what I'm doing. I might say, well, I still want to talk about, Burning Crusade Classic, but I do want to know. I am curious. So please tell me, give me that feedback if you don't mind. Put it in the comments of YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, or wherever it is. So that was the whole interview. It was interesting. There's been a lot of these interviews going around recently, and this one in particular caught my attention because of the whole "we wish we hadn't named it Warcraft" quote from Chris Metzen, or story told about Chris Metzen. I need to be careful here, because that was not a quote. He did not say that as a quote. She was Holly was referring to a conversation she had with Chris. So anyway, this one was really interesting. A lot of people have taken this to be, it's the downfall of WoW, it's the end of WoW, Disneyfication of WoW. I don't think that's the case, but I do understand that there's a lot of frustration from people who want that more edgy experience in World of Warcraft, and they're not getting it right now. And that's true. You're not getting it right now. You're getting a much more stripped down version of World of Warcraft, but it is broader in its scope. So the individual stories are not going to go as hard, but overall, it's hitting a lot more of a broad audience. So I don't know. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is from a different interview. This is a PC Gamer interview with Ian Heather-Costas. And I'm not going to go through this whole interview. So it was Ian Heather-Costas and Maria Hamilton. And the quote here is, they were talking about the World Soul Saga and The Last Titan. And Maria says, there will be important characters that do not survive the trilogy. It'll be a lot of death, I'm afraid. Those are hard decisions. We have arguments about it. Is this the right time? What will we do with that person gone? Hamilton didn't spill on who might be getting murked by Xal'atath, which is fair enough. Now, just that quote taken out of context, and you go, okay, so they're going to kill off a bunch of people. There was a whole thing when the final season of Stranger Things launched at the end of last year, and that they had teased that, it's going to be dark, and it's going to be, oh no. Nobody died except for the villain, Vecna, and the Mind Flayer. Those are the only ones that died. None of the heroes died. None of the main characters died. And I think a lot of people were frustrated with that. And it wasn't because they wanted people to die. It's because that was teased that people were going to die. I don't think Blizzard is doing that here. I think that they're genuinely going to kill off some major lore characters. And I unfortunately feel like this might be the end of Thrall. I think that's what we're going with this, which is a bummer because Chris Metzen's back. So, we have Thrall's voice. As far as major lore characters go, we don't have that many left that are from the old guard. Tyrande and Malfurion are still there. Chandris still there. Thrall, Jaina. There's just not that many from the original Warcraft 3 games. Or the Warcraft 2 games for that matter. You could kill off Valeria, Turalyon. That's fine. I wouldn't miss either of those, honestly. They did the fake out death for Khadgar, and so you can't kill him again. He's immortal now. I'm curious to to think about that particular topic and who might be killed off at the end of the trilogy. And it sounds to me like there's going to be sacrifice. One of the things that was really frustrating about Legion, which is, the last time we had a bunch of main character deaths, we had Tyrion Fordring, we had Vol'jin, and we had Varian Wrynn. And Vol'jin's death and Tyrion's death were both kind of anticlimactic, almost empty. Varian's death was at least, okay, dude went out a hero, took out a Fell Reaver, and faced down the entire Legion by himself. Cool. Died a hero. Saved everyone else. Fine. Vol'jin and Tyrion, no. Those were pathetic. And if that's the type of death we get, I'm going to be sad and bummed. If Thrall is just like, oh no, and dies, come on, what are we doing here? No, if Thrall sacrifices himself to save everyone, in some heroic way, cool. That's what I want. I want Thrall to go out like a boss. I don't want him to go out like a bitch. So please, Blizzard, do not kill off these characters for nothing. Make it special, make it meaningful, make it worthwhile. And I think I'll be cool with that. So, all right. That's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really do appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege to get on this microphone and speak to you. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to get a hold of me, you can, or get a hold of the podcast. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can get on our Discord server, AzerothUnitedPod.com. I'd love to hear the feedback from you about the show and about the type of content that we cover here. Like I said, I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of changing in terms of covering classic or not, or covering retail or not. This is not a classic podcast and or a retail podcast. This is a World of Warcraft podcast, and I'm going to be covering the entirety of World of Warcraft. But I do want to hear your feedback on what you find interesting about the different things, because that helps me to build the show in a maybe a little bit better of a way. So sometimes I just ramble and I think, I wonder, does anybody listen to this part, or are people just tuning out? Anyway, you can get on our Discord server, AzerothUnitedPod.com. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I am at Denethar on Twitter and Blue Sky, so you can get me on those platforms. Although I haven't really been checking very much lately. If you are enjoying the show and you would like to help us out, there's a couple of ways you can do that as well. You can give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those really help out with the distribution. The podcast distribution game is so weird. I get people who put reviews out there, and I did a search, so I created a second Spotify account because I was like, I want a fresh one, and just, what if I type World of Warcraft podcast, right? And I was like, I don't know, 40th down the list. And I was really bummed. But I thought, well, I haven't been doing the social media thing. I haven't been putting it out there. And so, I guess that's on me. But, sometimes I do look, and I'm maybe, even though I'm kind of in this spot where I'm like, whatever, I don't care, but I do care. And it does matter. So, if you want to leave a review, that would be great. I'll read it on the air. Spotify comment, awesome. But it is what it is. If you're watching us on YouTube, you could help us out by leaving a like and a comment, and by giving us a subscribe. That would really help out the YouTube algorithm. Although I have debated on whether or not I want to turn off the camera, because I've been having a harder and harder time with my schedule and getting the time to actually film these podcast episodes. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be easier if I just sat down and talked into a microphone and didn't worry about anything? For now, I'm going to continue with the video, but maybe one day it'll just be an audio only podcast. I don't know. We'll see. YouTube, that would help. And then if you're really enjoying the show, you could consider joining our Patreon. You could go to patreon.com/AzerothUnited. We have 3 different tiers of patrons. We have our free tier, and then we have 2 paid tiers. And that's just helps out with the production of the show, the equipment, the subscription costs for the hosting and different things like that. If you want to help, great. If you don't, it's cool. Azeroth United will always be free. I will never monetize it. If you want to help me out, I would love that. But if you just want to enjoy the show, I love that too. But anyway, yes, you can go to patreon.com/Azeroth United, and you can join. I do want to thank our friend of the show patrons right now. That is Stuglife, Thelial, Greybeard, Raven, and Macus. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate it. You definitely help make Azeroth United possible. And yeah, I think that's it. Check out our Discord, AzerothUnitedPod.com. And I think that'll wrap it up. So, all right. You know, just be cool. Be cool with everyone. And the sky is not falling. World of Warcraft is not dying. Yes, it's not going to be as violent as it once was. It used to be a real-time strategy game. And, you know, now it's a massively multiplayer online game, and pretty soon probably going to be like a TV show or something. So, you know, be cool. We're all here together. We're all having fun. Leave your feedback in whatever way you want for Blizzard. They need to hear it, but understand that, you know, it's not every feedback needs to be acted on. Sometimes people take feedback and go, okay, that's good to know, but we're still going to move ahead with what we're doing. We're still going to make housing, because, you know, that's just what we're doing. So anyway, just remember to be good to each other. It's a big world, and sometimes people get really upset, and there's a lot going on in the world that people are upset about, and one way or the other. And I think that it's important for us to get into Azeroth and to just, you know, we're all together and we're all having a good time. So just smile and be kind to one another. All right, take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.